Looks like He-Man has his hands full with snakes. Here's your look at the new Mattel Master Universe Origins Snake Armor He-Man. The dreaded Snake Men have arisen from the darkest depths of Snake Mountain. King Hiss and his repulsive reptiles have vowed to destroy He-Man and his heroic warriors, as well as Sunman and the rulers of the sun. Will Eternia fall to the slithering swarm? Well, here's hoping that He-Man doesn't have an extreme case of ophidiophobia. Before we get a closer look, though, at Snake Armor He-Man, that's the fear of snakes, by the way, just in case you wanted to know. Let's measure him off with the tape measure here. And off to the top of the head I go. The He-Man in snake armor stands, in this case, 5.5 inches in height, or the figure is going to be about 13.5 centimeters tall. Seeing as He-Man is not actually based on the original 80s design, he never had this armor back then, but he's actually was based, rather, from the 2000X cartoon series. Later into the series run, he actually adopted the snake armor, and he actually also had a subsequent toy released based on that design as well. I'm not going to bring in a more classic-looking He-Man from the Origins line, but rather instead, I'm going to bring in one from the 2000X series, and neither of these toys would have actually existed back in the 80s, but they're, of course, now stylized in that Origins design we all come and love now. Another figure we can also use for comparison, seeing as we're sticking with snakes. Here's what he looks like with a couple of these snake men earlier looked at. Here's what he looks like with the tongue Lashor. Here's what he also looks like with Cobra Khan. I could technically also bring in Ratlor, but I'm sort of running out of space. Let's see if I can actually fit this guy in here over here as well. We are still going to be looking at Snake Armor Skeletor FYI, so if that's certainly something you guys would want to see, yeah, Rattler is always going to have a hard time to stand. Curse the tail that's attached on the back of his body. Tails aside, though, let's have a look at the accessories now that come included with Snake Armor He-Man. Luckily for me, at least, it comes included with the same mini comic that I happened to rip before. This one actually is called Rise of the Snake Men. Advertised here on the back, or on the front, you've got Rattler, you've got Cobra Khan. And I think on the back here, yeah, we got Boltman, still an enemy from Mega Man. Inside, though, because again, I ordered this online, we actually are getting dialogue. I can't actually speak as to whether Canadian stores that are now getting those He-Man figures, because that's not happening. That's not happening. I can't tell whether they actually would have still now had comics that would have had dialogue on the inside. It's ridiculous, the fact that if you bought these things locally, it would normally be no dialogue in the inside. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. You can see, at least in this case, that He-Man is battling what looks to be, I think that is Rattler down below there. And then, of course, just flipping through the pages quickly. On the back, also some advertisements for all the figures that we've looked at so far, except for Boltman. How about that? I'm probably going to still pick this guy up, but I'm not going to be as desperate to pick this guy up as I would have been like with the Snake Armor He-Man or Snake Armor Skeletor. Boltman, if I hopefully find this guy in the wild and not pay too crazy of a price online, I'll probably still pick him up because I'm loving of course, the Origins line so far. I'm going to put that to the side. Not the most interesting thing to look at, of course, but it also comes included with a little pamphlet sheet. Just once again to tell you that you can remove, decapitate, yank the things that are off of He-Man, like his arms, his lower torso, and the lower legs. You can also remove his head. And you can swap it out, of course, with other He-Man figures. I don't know why. Some people, I guess, like to do that. What does, though, come included with He-Man, at least for things that he actually can make use of, is the figure comes included with a little pincer claw. This pincer claw, for some reason, to me, reminds me of the Seti eel from Wrath of Khan. Oof. Still thinking about that, gives me the willies. It doesn't do anything really. It's just molded here in yellow plastic. It's actually more of a gold yellow plastic, but it does look quite nice. This does actually fit to the side gauntlet located on the forearm here of He-Man. You see, there's a little slot right here, and similar to a Predator, you just pop that in there, and He-Man has himself a grabbing claw. It doesn't do really anything other than what it's doing right now. It's just more for cosmetic than anything else. It doesn't actually open. It doesn't actually close. Well, again, you get the idea. The figure also comes included with the 2000X series of the Power Sword. I never liked to look at this. This looked obnoxious. Unnecessarily busy for no point at all. Here's also what the one that came included with the 2000X He-Man looks like. So you can see that they're identical to one another. You could say that on paper, they are missing a little bit of the paint elements. There's no paint actually painted in the middle area here. But if this is, again, based on the vintage toy line, none of the old original accessories really would have had any paint to speak of either. So, again, I can't really find fault for that. So we can take the sword and we can also put that into his hand. It doesn't have to necessarily be the hand that has the seti eel claw. You can easily put that on the other side, or what you can also do as well is flip the figure around. You can holster then the sword on the back of his body. There's enough space there to accommodate such an ugly looking sword. One of the worst He-Man power swords. I'm standing on my pedestal to say that. Nice looking, overall armor. I don't like the look of the sword at all. We're going to move that to the side because I'm sure that's going to get in the way of things. I'm going to keep the claw here for right now. We're going to get a closer look now at He-Man in snake armor. Again, not based on the original design. The Classics, Master Universe Classics follow-up series from Mattel Collector also did release one with, I believe, King Hiss, a battle armor King Hiss. So I don't have that figure, of course, now to try to track one down online, going for crazy stupid money. I'm not going to be paying crazy stupid money, but I do like the look of this one. It's a little on the more busier side. Of course, it does make use, in this case, of the exact same head that came... Sorry, I didn't mean to startle you. Sorry. Sometimes I have to realize I can't bring things in so fast. It does use the same head sculpt as the 2000X series He-Man. It's a little bit more of an updated, or what you could say a modern design. I would also go further to that and say that this particular design of He-Man looks oh so tired. Instead of calling him maybe snake armor He-Man, I would call him very tired He-Man. Doesn't it look like he's barely slept? It looks like he's drinking coffee all the time. The head sculpt, for what it is, for a more modern take, isn't terrible. I just, again, prefer the more vintage look, more classic look of He-Man instead. The armor essentially looks like it's been over top of an existing or regular Master Universe Origins body. You wouldn't be able to take this off. Even if you were to detach the body, remove the top half from, of course, the bottom half, you wouldn't be able still to take off the armor. I suppose you probably could pry this off, but then I would ask the question, like, why would you even want to? I suppose you could technically take the arms off. Why are we removing everything on He-Man? If you remove the arms, technically the shoulder pads, yeah, you still wouldn't be able to... I don't think you'd still be able to remove it. I was going to say maybe if you took the arms off, why are we even having this dialogue? Let's snap that back into place. The whole idea, of course, is that you can mix and match these. Who's seriously doing that? The designing of He-Man, though as busy as it may be, does give him a very medieval look. He's got a big giant shoulder pad here on the side. It's made of a softer plastic. Really nice silver accents that have also been added. It looks like it's likely been molded here in the plastic and not probably painted. What does look, though, has been painted is the new the He-Man logo that he has in the 2000X series, which I always thought looked more like the late 70s, early 80s Hercules cartoon. Remember Daedalus and Newton? Man, I really hated Newton. But it does kind of remind me of that vintage. How are we dating ourselves by saying this? Does anybody even remember the late 70s Hercules series? It might have even been mid-70s when this series first came out. Like the designing of this, although it doesn't look anything like something that He-Man would be sporting, he does have himself sort of a skirting down below, not necessarily a loincloth, and there's some decent detailing and sculpting that they've additionally added here to the top of it. I like the green that they've added. I like the brown that they've added. I do not like the fact that there's a little spot right there. Let's see if I can maybe take myself a magic eraser and see if I can rub some of that off. And of course, he does have the gauntlets there, the bracelet on the one side. This other side serves kind of the same way as the Master Universe Origins Man-at-Arms. If you have yourself a Man-at-Arms or even a Beastman, they're always prone to having these things just sort of flopping around on the figure. He-Man's is a little bit better. It's not as bad as Duncan's, and it's not as bad as Beastman's, but it does move around quite a lot, especially if you're just trying to get the figure to be posed. Speaking of posing, the articulation on the figure, the head rotates all the way around on a ball joint. Does look up quite comfortably. Does look down to about there. You can also hinge it back and forth as well. Standard, of course, Master Universe Origins articulation, so you can move the arm out at about 90 degrees. It, in fact, actually stops at 90 degrees. You can take those arms and rotate them also all the way around. Figure has only possession of a single hinge in the elbow, but also allows the forearm to rotate all the way around. Hands rotate also all the way around. You can hinge them also back and forth. That's the same also on this side too, so I'm not going to rinse and repeat on this side. The figure does have straight swivel hinge on the waist. Legs do split out. Bring them forward. You can also bring them back. And I did also notice on this He-Man, not as much on this leg, as decently detailed as it is, but on this leg right here, it's really loose. Why is it so loose the moment I get it out of packaging? It shouldn't be loose so quickly. He does have a swivel cut, but the swivel is essentially part of his armor. So it's going to look a little disjointed, any little bit of movement that you do. The feet also do move up and down this way, and also ankle rock them. So again, all your standard articulation. And again, you probably could get this kind of crouching pose, being the fact that his knees are already as loose as they may be. Also the fact I just like the idea that the figure's legs are always straight more so. But yeah, a nice looking He-Man. Just to put him back down. Free up a little bit of space again next to him. We can bring back in the 2000X He-Man. You know, even if I don't really like the idea that we are continuing and expanding the Master Universe Origins stuff to include things that were never really part of the original vintage toy line in the first place, I gotta say I do like the look of Snake Armor He-Man. It's a little busy, it's a little complicated. When it comes to certainly his armor, it has more of a medieval look of He-Man. But I like the look of it, and it does look quite good, even though poor He-Man looks like he's always tired. It's really hard to be a He-Man collector here in Canada. Many of you Canadian viewers can probably attest to that. Slim to none chances there are to actually find any of these figures out in the wild, to go to your local Toys R Us, yes, we still have Toys R Us here in Canada, or to even check out a Walmart's. Slim pickings is generally what you'll find. You might find the odd Lords of Power Merman, or purple-skinned Evil Lyn, or you might find yourself several Fistos. They can't seem to sell their Fistos off, and maybe that's one of the reasons why they don't end up stocking anything new. It's simply just because they're realizing the stuff that they have don't sell. They don't realize, though, that you have to get also the new stock in to bring the collectors back to your stores to be picking up the newest figures. I say all this because I ended up ultimately having to pick up Snake Armor He-Man, Snake Armor Skeletor online, and I had to pay a little bit more in order to acquire them. I'm not disappointed that I had to pay a little bit more because I like the look of He-Man, and I guess he does warrant having the extra plastic on his body with all the armor that they put onto his body to justify the price that I ended up paying. I think it was probably maybe like $5, $10 more than what he would have been in retail. Still a decent enough price. I'm looking forward to certainly opening up Skeletor. While I like the look of He-Man, I think I'm going to like the look of Skeletor that much more. What do you guys think of the figure? Let me know down below in the comments section. Have you still been collecting any of the Masters of the Universe Origins figures? And if you have, tell me your stories down below of how difficult or how easy it's been to find these things in local stores. Are you having an easy time just to go to your local stores and finding all these figures? I know they have recently reissued a lot of the older He-Man figures, the ones that you couldn't get before, like Many-Faces and Orko. Those were getting at one point re-releases. I don't know what's happening with those anymore. There's still, of course, rumblings the fact that Mattel doesn't own the rights anymore to the Master Universe Origins stuff. That might very well mean that we may not be getting any more things than the stuff we've already been seeing in stores right now. I can only hope, though, we are still going to be getting some more Motu stuff. Even if it's not the stuff that's based on the original vintage toy, any more Motu figures is fine with me, though. Again, if you guys enjoyed this video, I want to hit with a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing, certainly do want to stick around for more snakes, because we are again going to be looking at the Snake Armor Skeletor, then make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and that you're also turning on the bell notification. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.